You are at war with yourself and likely don't realize it. Your thoughts, beliefs, habits, and actions often sabotage you. Are they helping you overcome adversity or setting you up for failure? To win this battle, you must connect with your inner warrior. We all have a warrior within us, one that strengthens our resolve and helps us to rise to meet life's challenges. If you're just surviving rather than thriving, then it's time to embrace the warrior archetype, live the warrior ethos, and ascend. If you are a veteran, first responder, or someone looking to take charge of your life, find your tribe, and then be the hero of your own story, this podcast is for you. Join Mike Kinney and Matt Hastings, two retired U.S. Army officers who served in U.S. Army Special Operations and Army Aviation units, as they share with you optimal performance practices they learned in their time with the Military and Warriors Ascent, a 501c3 nonprofit that helps veterans and warriors with PTS.
Well, hello and welcome to the Warriors Ascent podcast with your hosts, Mike and Matt. So we've said it before, right? In terms of the Warriors Ascent program, I'll say our philosophy and ethos, right? Grit, tenacity, perseverance. So whether it's a career in the Army, right? Whether you're dealing with trauma and anxiety, whether you're looking at overcoming adversity, right? Stoic philosophy, all of that. I'd say grit is, the hallmark of the warrior, right? The person that can endure under the most trying of circumstances. I'll throw out Angela Duckworth's book titled Grit, wherein she says, in essence, grit counts twice, even more than IQ and skills. It's that perseverance and that never say die attitude that really matters. So with all that being said, I think I've got, the embodiment, the personification of grit sitting here. He's laughing, but it's true. Tony Hofmann, he was in the previous episode, but this episode will go into why it is that I think that. And also, why I think Team Leadville, the Leadville Trail Marathon, everything that Tony's worked up, why I think that's so, I say, relevant and germane to what it is that we stand for. I'll say it's very emblematic or it's a great metaphor for, what a lot of our warriors are going through. It's kind of like an endurance race sometimes, a long, hard slog. And those that see it through and endure are the ones that have that perseverance, grit, and tenacity. And quite frankly, I can think of no one better to speak to us about that than one Tony Hofmann. So
Excellent.
Mike, Matt, great to be back. Second time in a row. I mean, one, your listeners maybe get tired of me, but I'm lucky to be here. I'm going to go play the lotto tonight since I'm so lucky to be here twice in a row.
Twice in a row. So, I'll tee you up on the screen behind this. So ultramarathon runner, and I'll let Tony obviously speak to all of this. That's, many, but the ones that, I'm aware of, that, Leadville Trail Marathon, the 100 miler, they've got a 100-mile marathon at, I should say ultra marathon race at 13,000 feet. That's crazy. Tony's the founder and coach of Team Leadville. So again, I'll let him speak to that. But in as much as Warriors Ascent is concerned, a shout out to Tony and Team Leadville through the Leadville Team Leadville, oh my God. Through Team Leadville running the Leadville Trail Marathon, they've generated hundreds of thousands of dollars for Warriors Ascent and our mission to help veterans and first responders with post-traumatic stress, and Tony's purpose and mission to stop veteran suicide. And lastly, as I think I've teed up, I consider Tony a grit exemplar, again, the embodiment of grit and tenacity. So with all of that being said, Tony, tell us the story of Team Leadville, all of your endurance running, daring do, and then, we can speak about how you and I came to know one another and where that's gone. So.
Yeah, happy to do it. I do want to take a step back. You mentioned Angela Duckworth and grit. This concept of grit, it's I think it's overused a lot in society today. I would encourage your listeners to maybe give the Angela Duckworth book a read. Okay. It's a good read. And actually, she studied West Point cadets, believe it or not. And I'm not pushing West Point out over, but
Special Forces guys too.
And no, but that's what she did a lot of her research. But the one thing that stuck with me in the whole grit piece is the equation she utilized. It says talent times effort equals skill, skill times effort equals achievement. Talent times effort equals skill, skill times effort equals achievement. Key point, effort counts twice. So I think what gets lost in the shuffle of society today is effort. Everybody wants things easy. But Duckworth's, a lot of what she studied it is about effort. Effort counts twice. So I'm not saying it should always be hard, but effort does count in putting yourself on the grit journey. So I just want to state that from the Duckworth piece. That is a great point,
man. No, and I'm not that I would have any doubts, but I'm super impressed, because in our cohorts we talk about various equations for motivation and hope and all of that stuff, and I knew Angela Duckworth stuff as well. But no, you're right. I mean, let's break out the effort piece, or the other thing we talk about is gravitas, right? So we've got our logo. One of the logos where it's Prudentia, Fortitudo, and Gravitas. We opened up, the first pilot episode speaking about that. So, Prudentia, sound decision-making, but Fortitudo, fortitude. But the Gravitas kind of, I'll say loosely speaks to that. It's solemnity, commitment. The reason I chose that is because exactly to your point, people are so flighty. Well, when the going gets tough, I'm going to do something different because it's not as fun, versus really doubling down and saying, no, if it's worth doing and committing yourself to, man, expend the effort. So speak to us about that, Tom.
Yeah, and the thing with endurance athletics, there's no shortcut. I wish there was. I wish there was.
There's no easy button.
There's not, and I'm not saying that's just the truth. I mean, if you're going to do the marathon or ultra marathons, there's no silver bullet for it. You got to put the work in and the effort to ultimately get the end result. And I think it's probably applicable to the Warrior Ascent program, that the cohorts, the effort it is going to take for your folks to overcome post-traumatic stress, and put that effort in with the tools that your professionals, you teach them, and your mentors like Matt. So effort does matter in the successful journey of the warrior, I think.
Dude, so very metaphorical. You're absolutely right. So I know for Team Leadville, you offer, just by virtue of your expertise, training plans and protocols where, hey, if you want to get yourself in marathon shape or half marathon shape, these are the things you need to do, and I'll say to my wife, and I'm certainly not the runner that you are, but, I'll be doing my runs, I'll be doing this. And it's just like, either pay me now or pay me later. I either suffer a little bit now or suffer immeasurably at 13,000 feet.
Yeah, don't forget to mention it's at 13,000 feet in Leadville, Colorado.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
So let me take you on that journey a little bit on the Leadville piece for your listeners very quickly, without boring them too much on some of the stuff. So I've been a marathoner since 1990. So right now I'm entering my 34th year of doing marathons or ultras. So I'd done a variety of marathons, including my gold standard for the marathon is Boston Marathon. In fact, just this 2 days ago, I completed my 15th Boston Marathon. So I'm back here still heavily on caffeine, though, staying awake here, but still tired from the Monday race here on Thursday.
It's a warm-up.
But so I'd done a lot of marathons, left the military in 2013, not because of that, but decided, hey, I really want to up the game a little bit and do an ultra marathon. Probably not the smartest move, but ultra marathon is anything over 26.2 miles. So decided to do a 100-mile event in Leadville, Colorado, which is the highest incorporated city in the U.S. It sits at 10,152 feet. Leadville 100-mile run started in 1983. One of the arguably the world's toughest runs, not the world's toughest run, but is one. And it's iconic. It's one of the oldest ultra marathons in the world. So maybe not the smartest move, going from 26.2 and adding 70 plus miles to that.
Running 3 times,
and then going
extra ones
from 900 feet in where I live in Kansas to ultimately 12,600. So made that journey, did a lot of research on it, did the training. It's a 30-hour race with intermediate cutoffs. And ultimately in 2013, got pulled at the 60-mile mark for not meeting a cutoff. First race I'd never completed. Still is the only race I haven't completed. But the point is, went on the journey and to do something uncommon and something to really challenge yourself to do something uncommon. Didn't make it. Through those lessons learned, went back in 2014, made some changes, had a great crew with my brother-in-law, my sister was helping, and other folks. So it wasn't just me, it was a team, and we'll come back to that in a minute. And ultimately crossed the finish line in 29 hours and about 31 minutes. So it's fortunate and learned a lot in that race and you know, that there is some luck involved as well to be able to make it through, especially as a non-elite athlete. But what I learned from Leadville was, hey, why can't we take this concept of the crew and the team? And I've always felt the marathon is transformational. If somebody can complete a marathon, not that a half marathon isn't big or 5K or 10K, but I really think, you know, less than 1% of the U.S. population or the world population will complete a marathon. I think it's a pretty big deal because it requires a commitment, requires the grit, requires the effort. And if you can go through that process, I think it's transformational because that process will then lead to other things in your life that you've gone through that effort and you look back on the marathon and say, hey, I did a marathon, I can do other things. So with that, thought, why not? There's a race series out in Leadville. It starts in June with the Leadville Trail Marathon, 26.2 miles, and also a heavy half, which is 15.5 miles, 2 races same day. That goes to 13,185 feet at Mosquito Pass. Why not start a team that starts and finishes the team together to go on that journey to do the marathon? So what started Team Leadville was really a bunch of folks to really push them to do a marathon together, train virtually, but come together during one day in June at Leadville and complete a marathon together, which we did in 2015. During that process, now Army Senior Major Dan Keyser, who was one of the original team members of Team Leadville, said, hey, why don't we raise money for a veteran cause? Frankly, as the coach or founder of Team Leadville, or chief motivation officer, as I call it, the CMO, I don't have time for that. I've got to figure out how I'm going to get 7 people across the finish line in a race that we've never all run together before at altitude. So Dan did the research. We raised $7,500 on a whim for IAVA. I think it's the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans Association. Good organization, but more of a think tank and a DC type to shape policy. That's where, as the veteran suicide epidemic gained more national attention, not popularity, more attention. In 2016, it turned it to, was locked in on the veteran suicide epidemic and really wanted to take action. We talked about that in the last segment. Let's take action. I'm tired of push-ups. That's not going to do it. It's not going to solve the veteran suicide equation.
End-to-end solution.
Saving lives. So we created, was looking for an organization, knew about Warriors Ascent here in the Kansas City area. Mike Kinney had just come on 3 weeks in as the executive director and had heard about him coming on. And quite frankly, I'm just going to make this public. Warriors Ascent had an okay reputation, but wasn't really as fiscally responsible and things. And I knew when Mike Kinney was announced as a West Point graduate that he would bring some stringency and regimen that was probably needed to Warriors Ascent. So that was what prompted me to reach out to Mike as he had been announced as the executive director. And we had lunch down in the market area and essentially told him, hey, we're going to raise money for you. And we're going to run the Leadville Trail Marathon like we did in 2015. Arguably, Mike won't agree with me. He was shaking head, I thought east-west, not north-south. And I walked out of there thinking he doesn't think we can do it. We already did it. So I'm a competitive person. We're going to make this happen, and I'm going to show Mike that we are going to do this for Warriors.
I'm always cautiously optimistic. I had no doubts, but I'm like, no, that's good. We're going to no. Now, the rest is history. Holy cow. Every year has gotten better and better. We've gotten sponsorships. We've got more people. I mean, we talked about before, everyone wants to be part of a winning team.
That's right.
And Team Leadville's got such a reputation.
Last year you brought in a big number.
Oh, hell yeah. Everyone wants to touch the magic. I mean, I want to talk about Warriors Ascent. I mean, I think it helps having a good organization, front for, but everyone wants to be part of Team Leadville because, man, they're doing hard stuff. They're committed to a higher cause, and just every year, more and more people, I say more and more funds by really as a function of the number of people that Tony recruits. And he's very upfront about it. Hey, we're here to raise money, and it's an important goal. So, I mean, geez.
Yeah, I want to add to that, though. I think there's another piece to that. First off, I take no credit for that. What I do is give credit to the runners and the donors, because folks often direct it back to me. I say, look, Team Leadville, without runners and donors, we have no Team Leadville.
That's right.
So it's amazing. We never had the intention of staying. This will be our 10th year. 9th year supporting Warriors Ascent. And again, without the runner, and every year do an assessment for 2 criteria. Are we making a difference? And are we having fun? If the answer to either of those is no, then we probably won't do it. I think we'll continue on, but I really let the runners and the donors make that decision.
That's right.
So entering year 10 this year, June 29th, we'll have 42 runners.
Yeah, man.
By far the largest group. It'll be 14 marathoners and 28 heavy halfers. So we now have 2 teams, one a heavy half team, 15.5 miles, and a full marathon team. Last year, Matt alluded to, we raised up, I think, about $94,000. Our goal this year will be $100,000. So in 8 years supporting Warriors Ascent, 9 years as Team Leadville, we have raised $444,000, and that has put 222 folks, veterans, first responders through the Warriors Ascent program. Very proud of that. So we can legitimately say we've saved 222 lives and counting. Key tenets of Team Leadville are in sync, I think, with the Warriors Ascent program: endurance, teamwork, and grit. Those 3 tenets really personify what Team Leadville's about. And our runners not only just raise funds, they train, they get themselves out to Colorado, they pay for the registration, but they're all in. Mm-hmm. They're all in for the mission of Warriors Ascent. And that journey for us is replicated through going to 13,185, because Mosquito Pass will get our attention. Yeah. And I'm very proud of that, but more so proud of our donors and our runners for continuing to want to do it. And I think it gives them a bigger purpose as well individually, that it's bigger than yourself. It's about the team. It's about saving lives, because that is our mission, to stop veteran suicide and first responder suicide and make a real difference. So
no, absolutely. And the commitment part of the runners, like you were saying, I mean, all the training, the registration, the travel. I mean, getting to Colorado, even from here, it's 10 hours, you're driving. A lot of people fly in. So no, we talked about commitment earlier. I mean, the runners, the members of Team Leadville are just super committed,
And it's quite an honor. And as somebody who needed the services Warriors, it just feels really, really great. And I appreciate you.
Well, Matt, we appreciate trying to make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the best I can say on that.
No, but what's so cool about it is, like you said, it's very, symbolic, emblematic of just all of it. And I think such a great event. I mean, and again, not taking away from other events but there's something about just the challenge of that run that I think just really, attracts people. I know Lifetime Fitness, now they own the rights, right?
They do.
So they did an article on Team Leadville simply because, I mean, man, hey, what is this team out here doing? They're putting themselves through the ringer to bring awareness, funds and support to, our cause, which is great.
And I'll give a shout out to the founder of the Leadville 100, who then really started the Leadville Race Series to save his city. That's a story within itself. Long story short, the Climax molybdenum mine closed. Unemployment went to 95% overnight in Leadville, a city of about 2,500 people. Domestic violence was kind of at a high, drinking, etc. So Ken Klober concocted the idea, and Marilee Maupin, of a 100-mile foot race in 1982 to be started in 1983, which made no sense at the time. But the intent was to save his city by getting getting people into Leadville overnight to spend money and for the economy. And it has grown to the Leadville Race Series. Ken is a close friend. He did the foreword for my first book, Embracing Grit, and he's the real deal. And Marilee Maupin is the real deal. And they have supported us as well in allowing us to integrate us into that race. And now we're a part of that race.
That's perfect. And that's a great segue for your 3 books. Yeah. So tell us about that. So we'll start with Embracing Grit. Just the basic themes and what that's about.
Yeah, I think one common theme throughout is grit. Now, in the 3rd book, Rim to Rim to Rim on a Whim, there's no grit in the title, but they're all related to endurance type events. But more importantly, there's a bigger picture or a bigger lesson for each of the books. For Embracing Grit, it's about challenging yourself to do uncommon things. In this case, the Leadville 100. So it's not just applicable to Tony Hofmann, it's applicable to the reader. And that's what you'll get out of that book, is challenging yourself to do uncommon things.
See, that's important, man. Yeah. I mean, not to sidebar, but deliberate discomfort, he's what's his name? Jason Van Camp's West Pointer Special Forces guy wrote that book all about, hey, you got to put yourself out there. There's another book, The Comfort Crisis. Then you talk about mindset, Carol Dweck, growth versus fixed mindset. And I want to attribute it to Maslow, says you can either step forward into growth or back into safety, or comfort.
Comfort, yeah.
So to your point, I mean, half of the growth in self-actualization, again, Maslow, is doing exactly that.
Well, I would say your graduates, I've been a board chair of Warriors Ascent and a kind of a pseudo board member, kind of, or advisor. But my point on that is, I do believe as folks make their individual decision to go to a cohort, they're putting themselves in an uncomfortable, they're getting uncomfortable, being comfortable, being uncomfortable, which is in line with Embracing Grit. My definition of grit is putting yourself on an uncommon journey, not knowing what that end result's, putting the effort in to get to that ultimate destination you want to go to, but you don't know what that ultimate destination, you don't know if that effort's going to pay off or not. That's what happened in 2013. Didn't make it, put the effort in, but you're putting yourself, it's a procedural, the process of putting yourself on an uncommon journey and taking that step to do so. It's about the process. The magic is the process. The magic isn't necessarily getting across the finish line of the Leadville 100 or whatever. I didn't make it in 13. I made it in 14. Okay, big deal. And I didn't make it again in 16. I got pulled off at 70. It's the only race I haven't completed. Still sticks with me. But the point is, the magic is in the process and making the decision to put yourself on the journey. That's what Embracing Grit is all about.
I mean, it's kind of like the hero's journey rubric we use too, which is interesting. So, kind of descent into the unknown world, right? The trials and tribulations, the challenge and all of that stuff, the call to adventure that precedes that, like, hey, I'm going to do this. And then they talk about the boon, right? Being, all right, what have you learned from the entire process? Like, how is it that you've been made better, and then bringing that back to the known world. But that rubric we see resident in mythology and movies and all of that, but I think it pervades, I'll just say, the human experience. We resonate with that, and I would say Leadville Trail Marathon is no different.
Yeah. Back into the 2nd book, Endurance, Teamwork, and Grit, it chronicles the journey of Team Leadville. So for those listeners that really, or viewers that want to really learn about Team Leadville, it's in a book. Now, it's probably the least selling, quite frankly, of the 3 books. One just came out, but it's probably the most important because it's more near and dear to my heart of what we do.
What we started out to do,
to stop veteran suicide. But for the reader, not only does it chronicle Team Leadville, the bigger lesson for the reader is, how do you recruit and retain all volunteer teams? This will be our 10th year. if you would say to somebody, I need you to create a team to go to 13,185 feet, do one of the highest altitude marathons in the U.S., and do it for a decade. And oh, by the way, ask them to raise money for a nonprofit.
Yeah, it's really cool that you documented that.
Yeah. So, I mean, why do they do it? You'd have to ask the runners because it's bigger than self.
Right.
But it's an all volunteer team.
Well, let me ask. I mean, that's worth parsing out. That's, you know, and I mean, hey, I've known you now for years. You've been a great friend, mentor, supporter. So I'm almost ashamed to say I've never really thought of it quite like that. I mean, and you know, I've run the half marathon with you. So, you know, I've been there with the experience, certainly not the full marathon, but no, break that out. I mean, what is it? I mean, I've got some opinions just seeing and knowing some of the runners, but as a guy that really is A, written the book on it, and B, honchoed the entire enterprise, what do you feel is the reason or the reasons that people would do that?
Well, we have veterans and non-veterans. I think I think in our society, few events you have to do that's bigger than self. People want to be a part of successful teams. And I think they do, in deep down, want to challenge themselves. And that's really what we ask them to do, because you have to train for it. So for some, it might be a physical journey that they hadn't been exercising and they want to challenge themselves. But at the end of the day, they see the bigger piece of it's bigger than me. It's about saving lives. And it gives them that goal of all the other things, physical and mental, et cetera, of pushing themselves. But at the end of the day, they see it bigger than themselves. And in society today, a lot of times we don't get to be associated with great teams.
Well, here's another thing along those lines. I think it's kind of like the military, you know, where it's that shared suck that you endure collectively. And I'll just say, like on our half marathon team, I mean, we're not setting records, but as you well know, I mean, obviously, you're moving in any way at 13,000 feet. It sucks, you know? So you're suffering a little, you know, no doubt. And doing that with other people and just being able to kind of share that with them, like, you know, Bill Doe is an example, you know, West Pointer, older fella. And as I'm walking and he's doing his thing, you know, just smile on his face, I'm just kind of like, I want to be like him when I'm his age, you know, and just being around people like that, you know, that, you know, some are younger, there's some young studs that we, you know, the Manis brothers, you know, and oh my God, you know, you just see a broad swath of different people, different chapters of their lives. And you're just like, yeah, these are the people that I kind of want to be around because.
Well, it's like the diversity of people who care and want to have a mission bigger than them. And it's.
No, it's exactly right, man. Very proud that, you know, it's not all veterans. Over half are non-veterans.
Yep.
So we have a mix of society. We have a mix of veterans. We have a mix of the youngest runner was our son, Nate. I think he was at 17 when he did it. And our oldest runner, I'm not going to mention age, but close to 70. Okay, so it's great. And then the third book, Rim to Rim to Rim on a Whim, an endurance junkie's guide to the Grand Canyon, chronicles the journey of going from the South Rim to the North Rim to the South Rim with minimal breaks back in 2021. Also did it on the 9th of March, 2024. A little bit different route. There's 2 south routes. But the bigger piece there...
How many miles is it?
Well, it depends which route you take. It was 52 miles for the first one, Bright Angel to North Rim, back to Bright Angel. The second time was 46 miles, 46 and a half, no, 46 from South Kaibab to North Rim and back. The bigger message for that particular book is there's no perfect time to do it. I had some back issues the first time I did it, but if you wait for perfect timing, you'll be waiting the rest of your life to do something. So it's to get out and just do it. So those are the 3 books. Grit is a common theme throughout, but there's a bigger theme for the reader to take out of each of those books, as we just talked about.
It's amazing.
Yeah. No, man, that is awesome. That is awesome. So, hey, just in closing, grit, perseverance, tenacity, right? Again, the hallmarks of the warrior. I say recipe for success.
It's always better when you've got somebody to your left and right going through that.
That's
same
exactly
thing.
right.
See, but that is the other thing too, is, it's easier to be gritty when you've got other people that got your back, when you're like, and it's not like, oh, I got to keep up, or they're abusive, but you're like, I don't want to let this guy down, or, hey, I want to be like them. So, I'd say, the lessons, grit and perseverance. But same thing, surround yourself with gritty people, and you too can be gritty. Because I'll tell you, I wouldn't be running the half marathon if it weren't for this man right here.
That's right.
And trail marathon too, by the way.
And by the way, just for our campaign, will run from Memorial Day through race day on 29th of June. Our goal this year for Team Leadville will be $100,000. I am very confident we will hit that goal. We'll maximize that goal. We'll go over it.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Hi, Matt Hastings here, sending a thank you for watching this episode of the Warriors Ascent podcast. We strive to build a community of warriors made up of our nation's veterans and first responders. And to reach as many of those in need as possible, we need your help. Please just smash that like button and comment or share our content. Warriors Ascent is a Kansas City-based nonprofit that aids veterans and first responders with PTS. I went through this effective program and want those that are struggling to find what I found. Check us out on our website at warriorsascent.org.